So perfect. So Rodney here. Welcome to Coffee Connect, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and jump into this. We got a great conversation today. As I said, this was inspired kind of by a conversation that I got to be a part of last week, and a story that I got to hear. We all often, as Dave pointed out, for myself, even for Coffee Connect, have a hard time asking for help every once in a while, right? And asking that we need assistance for something or whatever. And I'll tell you, our veterans today on Veterans Day, we honor that, right? Because we've got veterans out there carrying burdens that are far beyond imagination for most people, right? And today we're going to talk a little bit about the story of Christy Edwards and her family as well. Chad, her husband, who was a Marine, serving in both Afghanistan and Iraq, had a wonderful story of his service. But Chad, due to the burden of some of the things that he was carrying from his service days, right, in February of 2023 on Super Bowl Sunday, had woke up that morning, had poured himself a drink like maybe some of us already do because it's Super Bowl Sunday. At some point, him and Christy went to the store to get some things for what they were going to make for dinner for Super Bowl Sunday. They had a friend coming over to watch the game with them and stuff. And shortly after the game had begun, Chad had kind of dismissed himself from the living room and went out to the utility room. And Christy went to go check on him. And as she was checking on him, his last and final words were that he couldn't take it anymore and took his life right there in front of his wife and with his daughter, his young daughter, in the other room, and obviously a friend in the other room. And so, uh, we don't understand those burdens, and I'm putting this in the far side of this, right? I swung the pendulum all the way to the point where people are committing suicide, but I know, right, that there are people today. Right? I mean, we have folks that are here that are in job transition and that have lost jobs or have went through things over the last 6, 7 months, right? That they didn't ask for. It just happened to them, right? And I don't want anybody to ever get to the point where they feel like they don't have someone to come to. And so I share Christy's story with you guys and Chad's story with you guys in hopes that today's conversation will open up, right, the conversation, or open up the pathway to us to discuss, why is it that we have such a hard time asking for help, and what can we do to encourage our teams, the people around us, right, to ask for help in a better way. I'll tell you, and I don't ever ask for money, guys, but I was also reached out yesterday to USA Cares, who funded the breakfast last week. And uh, with the cold weather coming in, Christy had actually called them back. Now, USA Cares helped Christy kind of get through some rough times financially when uh, the events occurred with Chad. But as recently, her heating unit went out on her house. And as you can only imagine, with a 14-year-old still at home, I mean, that's devastating when a family doesn't have heat and stuff in this kind of weather. So uh, I'm going to throw the GoFundMe link out there. That is all up to you guys. If anybody wants to give, it was definitely greatly appreciated to go out there and give. But today, like I said, I want to have that conversation surrounded by why we have such a hard time asking for help, right? And so I'm going to share my screen just so we can kind of get moving through the slides, because I don't have a whole lot of slides uh, as it is about the conversation. So we've all known people to go through this. We've all probably experienced times in our lives that uh, maybe we've just had a rough time. Maybe something has occurred that has prevented us from asking for help, or has prevented us from reaching out to someone, or we kind of think, oh, we can do this all on our own, right? Uh, and sometimes it just doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better, right? Until uh, something kind of comes through or something falls through, right? And so just want to, again, have the conversation here. What is it that you guys see? Why is it people, right, are failing, or why do we fail as humans to reach out to others and say, hey, I need a little assistance?
I think the stigma of mental health is a big one. Um, it just, the fear of losing a job, what are people going to think of me? That comes into it. I actually coach people on trauma and things like this. And I think we need to get rid of seeing somebody as some kind of weakness with this.
I think that
Yeah.
is for sure the truth, Shirley, that we need to quit visualizing what we think it is, right? And uh, the stigma is there for sure. What else?
I was going to say people think it makes them look weak.
Yeah.
Like why can't you deal with that yourself? Why are you dumping that on me? Um, you know, People who are proud, um, they don't want to seem weak.
Yeah, I think from a veteran standpoint, that's probably one of the biggest things, right? Is that often we're looked at as this person who's been able to sustain this sense of strength through our service and stuff, but now we get perceived as being weak. Thanks, Joe, for that.
Rodney, I think it might even be how and where we were raised. I mean, I use myself as the example growing up in a very rural part of the country. Whether you were a farmer or part of the farm support system, you didn't ask for a lot of help. I mean, it was just one of those things that, most of the guys were reluctant to reach out. Even the ones that they would get sick during planting or harvest time, and they were still out trying to do that. And the most beautiful thing was when a whole army of farmers would bring their equipment over and take care of somebody that was battling cancer or just couldn't get out in the field. That was amazing to see happen, right? But that was one of those things. That gentleman was he was not going to reach out for one way or one reason or another. But
That's an interesting
Yeah,
point.
and I think and we're all in Ohio, so we've all probably passed through Amish country at some point in time in our lives, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and what Darcy just talked about. I think there's strength in that community, and often we find ourselves stranded sometimes on this island, and we think we are alone, even though uh, it just takes us having the courage to be able to speak up and say what we need, right?
Rodney, I think the other thing is a lot of us have the issue of I don't want to burden others with my problems. And one of the things that I noticed as we talk about MacGyverism in men in particular, when you have somebody that's like an angel, somebody that has offered and is always there, everybody needs one or two people like that in their lives that they know you're not burdening them. They actually want to help you. And I think that's the thing. If you don't have that someone or a support structure, that issue, and some of it has been raised because of World War I and World War II. Those people came back and didn't say a doggone thing to anybody except their former veterans that they served with. So it was kind of built into us in the next two generations that no, that's my issue. I'll deal with it. And unfortunately, once you find somebody, it makes life a whole lot easier, or somebody's that you can collaborate, if nothing else, and you realize you're not alone.
Yeah,
It wasn't
oh,
said, but we're not even taught how to do this
No.
ourselves. We as adults growing up, we've never been taught, at least I've never been taught, how do you deal with emotion? You either figured it out or you taught yourself, but it's not a class. It's not something we're educated in.
And I think it's also
no,
societal. Oh, sorry, somebody
go
else.
ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we live in such an individualistic society. People, expect you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And even when there are opportunities, it's often done kind of anonymously. Rodney, you earlier shared the GoFundMe link. People are more comfortable just throwing a couple dollars at, what they perceive as a problem online. And, oh, okay, that's good. I helped somebody out. And that's true. But there's no personal connection there. Yes, you're helping that person with an immediate need, but you're not necessarily letting them know that they're cared about, that they're supported, that you have a genuine interest in them as a human being. And you think about that now, especially with the government shutdown, there's these stories of people who are bringing canned goods to airports for the TSA agents who are not receiving paychecks right now, or people are donating to food banks. That's great. It's all really, really great, but it's all done in sort of this impersonal way. It keeps you detached from the people who are really, who are really in need. And so it's just a weird system that we've developed where we pretend we're caring about other people in kind of but we don't want to be really involved. We just want to ease our own conscience, but we don't really want to connect with those people. So I'm personally trying to find ways to get around that in my life and make more real, genuine connections with other human beings.
Yeah, and I think that's, part of that might have been forced upon us, right, because of COVID and stuff, Jim, for sure. But I think it was going on long before that too, that we lost this sense of why do we need real connections in our lives and stuff in a big way, right? But I'll tell you, so having something that I think it was Darcy was talking, might have been Dave, but having spent Saturday with 100 other veterans, and there was a lot of Vietnam veterans in there, and I remember conversations with my father-in-law, who was a Vietnam veteran, and conversations with my wife, who said my dad has never talked about his service, and a lot of Vietnam vets just did not, and part of that was just because how they were received, and I think this goes back to the we don't want to be seen as weak, and so we don't want to communicate whatever our needs might be at that point in time. So curious if I can get a couple of you guys to kind of define what strength means to you, right? What strength means to you, and has your definition of strength changed over time?
Wow.
Is it my internet?
No,
Go ahead, Chuck.
no. Kind of a stunned silence there. I mean, there is a strength in being able to deal with certain things yourself, but then there's certain things that I know there'll be times that I'll maybe text with a friend at night. It's like, I just had to get that out or I was going to explode. If I'm dealing with a church group or something that so some things aren't going in a direction that I think the group should be going. But it's like sometimes you got to have that safety valve. And in my case, as a single man, it's like I have a handful of very close friends that every so often I'll say, "Hey, you got a minute?" And it's like it'll be somebody who I'm like in a group with. And I'll say, what do you think of that? And they'll say, yeah, I don't like where that's going. I'm like, okay, me neither. It's like, and then it's kind of like there's a strength in numbers type thing.
So I'm curious, and I'd like to hear from Pam. I know there's only the two ladies in the group today, Pam and Shirley. If one of you, like as a male figure, I know for a long time, right? I defined my strength and my ability to reach out to my dad and just say, "Hey, what do you think?" Right? And could lay things on him as a father figure that might give me some courage to go do something that maybe I didn't do before or something like that. And obviously having lost him in 2006, that kind of transitioned into my father-in-law, and then I lost my father-in-law in 2020, right? And so strength has taken on a different challenge for me because it more and more it lies on my shoulders, right? To now pass that on to my son. As a female, have you had a figure like that in your life that you kind of help lay things onto or rely on when things were tough?
I think honestly for me, and I'm going to be upfront, I'm a sibling survivor of suicide, by the way. Um, Therapy. And because my parents have undiagnosed mental illness, couldn't go to them because they couldn't function. So for me, the way to do it was that, if not with friends, but the therapy is what came in because I really didn't have good parenting. So that's what
Interesting that it comes back to the mental health thing again too, and
it
that might be
does.
part of it. That might be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think if there's instability in a family, if there's toxicity in a family, and I will tell you, my sister was not a vet, but there were chronic issues, CPTSD. Okay, that if you're brought up in a family, and here we are in a very expressive, my culture is Italian American, very emotional, but at the same time, well, we don't do that. You don't go for help. Everybody, gets into everybody other's business and they're very dramatic, but you don't get the help. That's still very pervasive. And I refuse to do that.
We're going to come back to why that is, or what you found and able to do enabled you to kind of be that way. Pam, you hit on you to go ahead.
Yeah. Strength to me comes in a variety of ways. Like you, Rodney, my dad passed away and my fiance passed away during my last unemployment. So with that being said, I had to find different avenues. I relied on my mom a little bit, but through getting through the toughness of losing someone you loved, I found journaling gave me the strength I needed to move forward.
I think loss definitely allows us to dig a little bit deeper to find areas that we can recoup ourselves in, right, and find ourselves in a better place. So I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. Listen, we're gonna go to a breakout room, guys, real quick. And for Pam, this might be a little bit easy, and as well, Shirley, just because of how they just answered, right? In the breakout room, guys, what I want us to answer, or what I want us to dive into, uh, there is some goofiness going on here. I got all kinds of stuff going on. It is this question, right? I want you to think of a time when asking for help felt difficult to you, but ultimately it led to some growth within you, right? I said this is going to be probably easy for Pam and Shirley to answer just because of how they answered just now. But what made it hard to speak up? What changed when you did? That's what we're going to talk about. I'm gonna say I set the timer wrong on that, but sure.
Felt like 2 minutes there, Rodney.
It was 5, and it wasn't supposed to be.
Better than the 30 that I did last week.
Oh, good. Yeah, like 3 hours. So
I did 90 minutes, I think.
anybody have anything they can share as far as a time that maybe they felt it was difficult to ask for help?
I mean, I can share, but first off, I don't have any electricity. I'm at a job site, so excuse me looking like I'm from the anonymous clan. But so the time that I referenced was like 2010-ish. I was home from college. I had a landscaping business. It went well. I transitioned into real estate. That didn't go so well, and I had to ask for help during that time frame. I ended up losing everything, but the reception and the perception and the experience actually is what made me into what I am today. Because I never wanted to ask anybody for help again. So like it goes back to the strength question for me. Like essentially, I've learned that strength is just your ability to endure, grow, and evolve. Nothing more, nothing less. I take everything as personal accountability. Doesn't matter what's going on. I'm not one of those people that'll swallow their pride and ask for like I'll pay somebody and figure something out and get it done all on my own accord rather than reach out or anything else, just from my own personal experiences, what I've learned. So yeah, that's my experience and story.
Yeah, I like that, Ray, and the fact that you brought it back to the definition. Anybody else? So we're short on examples this morning. I mean, I will tell you.
I mean, I was talking to our group about, you know, a time where I took a job in a new area, and it was really challenging because the expectations that were built up weren't, you know, what they painted the picture for wasn't what was there when I got there. And it really was kind of a lemon type deal. And I had to make the best out of it, but it was 70 hours a week working, you know, to fix some things, and a lot of constant antagonisms, you know, that were coming at me. And the problem that I had with it was I was in a completely new geographic area and I didn't have a base of friends there. You know, I mean, this all happened within the first couple months of me being there. Didn't even have a chance to step out and meet people. You know, so if you don't have that immediate group there to support you, you know, back then we didn't really have Zoom or Teams, but you know, it's not the same as if you're talking to somebody over the phone from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, Michael brought up in our group as well a time that he took on a new job, and even though there was people, he was still lonely, really kind of in his uh decision-making modes and things that he was doing and working on projects and stuff. He didn't feel like he had to support, right? And that loneliness, you know, even though you might have people around you, it doesn't mean that they're all pitching in. It becomes difficult sometimes if you feel like you're going in one direction and the rest of the wave is going against you, right? And uh, I'll go back to you know, when my dad passed away. Uh, it was one of those moments in my life that uh, kind of unexpected, because 3 months prior to that, he had flown down to South Carolina, watched the birth of my son, and came home. And the next thing I know, he was in Cleveland Clinic, diagnosed with ALS, and died within like 3 weeks, right? And it was a rapid transition. It wasn't anything that I prepared for, and so I don't think I had ever thought about who am I going to call now, like when something goes awry or something's not right, uh, or I just need assistance in understanding what's going on in my car because, well, he worked at Ford for 33 years. It wasn't a time that I couldn't call him and stuff, right? And uh, it was not very long after that that I had a conversation with my father-in-law, right? And just let him know that, hey, by the way, I just want you to know you're the guy now, right? You're the guy that I'm going to be calling and asking for help periodically and stuff. And obviously, since then, it has subsequently passed on to my wife's stepfather, who's always there for me as well. But I don't I probably have more structured manners to build that strength within myself to go, I'm going to figure this out, right? Or I'm going to find the other person now that I'm really in this relationship building mode with Coffee Connect and so much more in my life, right? Uh, and that's what I've kind of transitioned it to be. It's never about being by yourself. You can't be by yourself. You got to build yourself up with others around you, right? And uh, build that support team, as Ray spoke about, and so many others have spoke about today. So uh, let me ask, in that on that note, right, we're gonna jump into this next breakout, right, that talks about, I want us to kind of explore, like, what can we do to help encourage more of those people around us, right, to not be afraid to ask for help, right, to be willing to ask for help and understand when they may need help, right, and stuff. This is an important question. I think not only for our teams and those in Coffee Connect or whatever else, right? But I think I look back at this and I think about my kids, right? And I go, I don't want my kids ever to fear that they don't have someone to ask for help, right? And so
Joe, I can't hear you. You're muted.
I think he was saying I don't need to do that at his barber because he don't go to the barber. Or...
No, I was, you know, bite me. Did, No, I was just saying, I was kind of mumbling to myself. I said, I think he made that session a little shorter than he wanted to. That one seemed like it went pretty quick. And
I didn't have a timer on that one, but
okay,
it was on 7 minutes. It was on 7 minutes that time, but yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a tough question to break, right? It definitely, I don't know. I don't think there's any one formula of this is what we need to do to make it better for everybody, right? There's all kinds of things out there. I mean, Ray shared some things that he does with his kids and his nephew, right, to help them understand and acknowledge the fact that it's okay to ask for help every once in a while, right? If you're perplexed or you're at a standstill in making a decision or something like that, to ask for someone's advice and just say, hey, what do you think about this, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't get to make your decision still. You get to make the decision, but ultimately, you've brought someone in to maybe give you a different perspective on life, right? Or something. Uh, and
Ronnie, do you
so,
mind if I share?
yeah, go for it, Pam. Yep.
you go.
So in my former position, I had a certification for mental health for adults. With this certification, they taught us to recognize the signs and symptoms of someone who is struggling with mental health. And they told us to sit down with them, let them talk to you, give them the support they need. They may not have that support at home, but they trust you. You are not a medical professional. You can't give them medical professional advice, but you can support them and give them the proper tools to be able to contact that medical professional. And sometimes it's worth bringing human resources in for the employee emergency assistance program that they may have as a benefit.
Yeah, there's definitely, and we were talking earlier too. I said there's all kinds of resources. I remember being in the military. There's all kinds of resources, but that you still got to get over the position of I got to ask for help, or like you said, Pam, they were wise enough to kind of teach you guys what some of the uh, symptoms might have been, right? To keep an eye out for. And you know, initially we started with the conversation of Chad and uh, his unfortunate suicide that happened in 2023. But this goes far beyond just people committing suicide. I mean, depression happens on a frequent basis, and unfortunately, we're approaching the time of year that it tends to be accelerated more than ever, right? And so, Lamar, go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm actually going to hand it off to Darcy because he was talking about related to the generational differences.
Yeah, I think what I had shared, knowing that there's so many different generations that are in the workforce now, and based on how I grew up, not like my father and not like his dad, but still sort of that, trying to keep everything bottled up. I think first it's let them know that it's okay to share. We have two ears and one mouth for a reason, right? And so we need to be better listeners. And I'm guilty of this. I listen, and my first reaction is, how do I fix it? And stop being a fixer. Sometimes they don't want it fixed. Somebody else, you get connected with somebody, they don't want you to solve all their problems. And I think Lamar might have said this: listen, relate, and stop trying to fix it. Just be there. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Anybody else?
I think another thing too is, and I had a lot of people asking me what I needed help with, what can I do? And if you see somebody so overwhelmed like that, you can't give an answer because you just can't think clearly, is to be more specific when you see somebody in distress. Would you like a meal? Would you like this? Would you like that? Are you okay? Big question. Are you okay? A lot of people don't ask it. I mean, somebody may not be honest, but others might be waiting for that question.
That's one thing they told us in the mental health certification course is simply use, are you okay?
Yeah.
So are you okay? Right? Are those around you okay today? I appreciate you guys jumping on this conversation. It isn't an easy one to have, especially after the story that I heard last week with Christy and Chad and everything that had occurred in their family. And this was a blended family. Christy had one son and Chad had 3 sons, and then they had a daughter of their own in the mix of all of that and stuff. And so again, that was the extreme, but I know it happens every day. People are depressed and people are down on themselves for whatever reason, right? And sometimes it just doesn't seem like all the words of affirmation and empowerment and positivity can make a difference, right? But I will tell you right now, it does, right? It can change the tide just a little bit by doing the small things in life. As Shirley pointed out, would you like a meal, or would you like something to drink, or coffee, or would you like to just grab a seat and sit here and talk to me? I'll happy to listen, right? I think we always talk about the point that God gave us 2 ears for a reason, right? And I think it is listening with intent, right? But not with the intent to provide instruction or provide a clinical diagnosis or provide anything like that. Just listening, right? With the intent that they know that when they need to talk to someone again, they can always call, they can always reach out to you, that they can always sit down, that hopefully they're never going to cross over the edge, right? That they can always reach back out and say, hey, Jared, do you have a minute? Right? I know many of you on here have listened to us. We talk about the Simon Sinek 8-minute conversation. Have you guys ever seen that? You guys know what I'm talking about?
I couldn't
So there was
explain it, but I remember it, right?
Yeah, there was a point where Simon had a friend, I think, and I'm gonna paraphrase because it's been a while since I've watched it too, but a friend that they often reached out to each other and they would talk, and she was going through a hard time. Again, stuck in this conversation of not wanting to ask for help, right? And so Simon and her came up, after he had found out about this situation that she was struggling with, Simon and her came up with the code word that when you call, right, 8 minutes was the code word, right? If that was said, there was an understanding between each of them that, hey, I really need you right now, right? I'm struggling with something. I really need some help. I really need a conversation and an ear to bend or whatever else it might be. You didn't have to tell me the details. You didn't have to sit there and, 8 minutes is all you had to say. Right. And I would encourage everyone to find their 8-minute person, right? Their 8-minute confidant that they can rely on, right? And call at any moment, right? And stress whatever the struggle might be. I'm not saying you're going to walk away with a solution, because that's not what the intent is. The intent is that I can just let it out, right? And sometimes when you just let it out and let it go and speak it out loud, right, it tends to float away sometimes. And you realize that maybe it wasn't as big of a struggle as what we made it out to be, right? I appreciate you guys jumping on here today. It's 5 minutes before 11. I'm willing to stick around for a few minutes if you guys need to chat. Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans that are out there, right? Thank you for your service. Thank you all that are here today. If you aren't a veteran, thank you for your support, right? I mean, without your support, right, our troops would not be as successful at doing what they do, right? Their families would not be as strong as what they are. And definitely, we would not be the nation that we are. Love you guys. Go out there. Have a great week. All right.
See y'all.
See ya.
Rodney, could you talk about next week?